So initially I was going to make a part 2 to this video, but then I spent most of the week talking about soul and Mithraism. And then I was like, wait, why don't I just pump the brakes for a second and then just make one big video dedicated to soul and his religion. So let's just get into it. Something that I mentioned before that I really want to talk more in depth about is the tarot cards. In season 1 episode 9, Mother, Tempest, and Otho come across these metal tarot cards that were supposedly used by the devil cults before the Mithraic purged their ranks. Otho's words, not mine. The tarot cards being associated with the devil cults gives off the impression that the Mithraic don't like these cards and see them as something that works against the current beliefs of their religion. Lucius, being one of the last true Mithraic, even comes to the conclusion that these cards are warnings against following the prophecy. What further proves this fact is that Soul doesn't want these cards to exist. When Paul is in the cave in season 1 episode 9, it's implied that he hears the voice of Soul. Even though we can't hear what Soul is saying to him, we can still hear the faint whispers and ominous sounds that can be heard when Soul communicates with Marcus. Soul tells Paul that Mother's baby is a creation of his, something that wasn't even revealed until the next episode. Soul also warns Paul about going to the tropical zone, and tells Paul the true identity of his parents to prevent Sue from finding Mother when she gives birth. So we know by now that Soul is very calculated with what he tells people. So Soul is telling Paul to destroy the cards so that other people can't see them to prevent this kind of reaction we see in the season 2 finale. The main purpose of the cards is to objectively present what happens if you follow certain steps of the pentagonal prophecy. But wait, who put these cards in the middle of the desert in the first place? Well, that's a great question myself. We know that the creatures used to be humans, before shepherds like Grandmother devolved them. I expressed before that I didn't know how cognitively aware these creatures still are, as Grandmother wanted to give humans this more blissful state of being. What we do know is that the creatures are trying to obtain human children to care for them, but how they want to raise these children is still unknown. On a few different occasions, we've seen 2 different somewhat devolved humans. I feel like this somewhat devolved human in episode 10 was still working for Soul. The way it was dressed reminded me of the ancient robes the worshippers wear in the tarot cards, and the robes that resurrected Tally was wearing as well. Soul wanted the cards destroyed, but it also seems like he just wanted Mother to see this one card in particular. In episode 5, this devolved human is the one to run off with the cards, so it's more than safe to assume that the devolved human placed those cards there for Mother to find. But it also could have placed the cards there in hopes of deterring anyone from following the prophecy, because we see followers like Lucius begin to question their faith and deter them from blindly following the scriptures after viewing said cards. It took Soul having to directly talk to Lucius to fully restore his belief in Soul and overall devotion to him. We'll talk more about these cards in a second, but in order to better understand what the freak is happening in Raised by Wolves, we have to look at what inspired the atheists and the Mithraic. The atheists are based on everyone on Reddit, and the Mithraic are based on the real religion of Mithraism, which is a Roman mystery religion for Mithras, the god of sun and oath. It was a religion that was commonly practiced by soldiers and low-ranking people in society. Mithraism was practiced from roughly the 1st century to the 4th century CE, until it was taken over by Christianity in the 4th century as Roman Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity and then told everyone like, hey, guess what, you're also practicing now. Spoilers, it's Christianity. The real Mithraic were subsequently ostracized by their society, so their ceremonies happened in small tucked away spaces like subterranean caverns, something that clearly inspired how the characters in Raised by Wolves come across these cave paintings depicting the prophecy, and how Marcus and his followers seek refuge in a cave during season 2. I thought it was interesting how the real Mithraic truly were this minority in the 4th century, before the death of their religion. But in Raised by Wolves, the Mithraic truly are this powerhouse religion with a massive following and are so technologically advanced that they have the ability to destroy Earth. When it comes to the real world Mithraism, there's barely any written text that remains. Most of what we know about the religion is through archaeologists finding imagery and architecture, and when Mother is with Campion in the virtual monastery, you can see some of the real Mithraic symbols that archaeologists uncovered. If you pay close attention, you can even see some of the real-life statues of Mithras when Sue and Marcus are in the simulation. Right here is the statue of the head of Mithras, and right here is Mithras emerging from something that we're going to talk talk about in a second, but we're still missing all that written text, which is why this mystery religion remains such a mystery, because a lot of what we know is just speculation. This makes Mithraism a perfect religion to incorporate into a show that wants to explore certain aspects of religion, but doesn't want to necessarily depict any religion that exists today. In the Raised by Wolves universe, Mithraism is the dominant religion on Earth. And I think if we look at the real-world history of the Mithraic, it could better explain some of the history surrounding the ancient Mithraic on Kepler-22b. Kepler-22b's ancient Mithraic could have been like the real-world Mithraic, in a sense where they were pushed to the edges of their society, and only practiced their religion in small caverns to hide away from the opposition. The cave that Marcus discovers is the key indicator of this, as well as the temples, as they are incredibly isolated and lack any windows or openings, just like the real-world conditions the Mithraic practiced their religion in. Even though it's not specified how the ancient scriptures arrived at Earth, they still got there. The Mithraic must have only grown to a large number on Earth, while the religion failed on Kepler-22b. It's important to note that the Raised by Wolves version of Mithraism is not solely based on the real Mithraism. It's a mix between Mithraism, certain aspects of Greek mythology, Christianity, and other religions. Anyway, physically 13 and mentally 26-year-old Paul got manipulated into burning the cards. So sadly, we only get to see footage from 2 of these cards. Thanks a lot, Paul. But don't worry, Paul, you're still not as annoying as some other people. When looking at both cards, there's these figures that appear in these black ancient robes, surrounding an object of worship in a ceremonious type of way. In the second card, we know that they were creating the Tree of Knowledge, but in the first card, it's never explained what exactly Mother witnessed. There's this alien-looking robotic creature that's head is sticking out of this box. A box that's the same shape as the temples with pentagonal sides. So what exactly is this thing? For starters, it's definitely an android, because we literally see this thing releasing fuel blood from its mouth. The same way that Marcus was bleeding fuel blood from his mouth after Lucia shoved Mother's eyes down his throat. And when Mother pulls off its helmet, underneath is the head of an android, which is a dead giveaway. I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that this puppy right here, this is Soul, meaning Soul just came from the same technology that makes up Grandmother and Mother, or at least that's just my theory. But don't worry, I do a lot of research to back up my ridiculous claims. Let me explain by taking you back to some of that Greek mythology. I would be remiss in my duties if I did not bring up the Orphic egg or the cosmic egg. Phanes, another deity that's commonly equated with Mithras, hatched out of this egg. In fact, this sculpture from the simulation is of Mithras hatching out of an egg as well. This cosmic egg can be equated with the pentagonal-sided container that was trapping Soul. This box was Soul's Orphic egg. Phanes is a golden-winged primeval deity that's basically the god of creation. The unhatched Orphic egg is often depicted with a serpent wrapped around it, which is interesting, especially knowing that Soul works through a serpent. The purpose of Phanes is best described by quoting a lyric from the notorious Katy Perry song, Firework. Specifically the lyric, "You just got to ignite the light and let it shine," as in Phanes was meant to bring the light. It seems this pentagonal box was the first edition of Soul's cosmic egg, as it was wrapped in snakeskin when Mother later discovers it. In real life, there were these lion-headed sculptures that were found in the Mithraic temples. It's unclear who exactly this lion figure is, but it has wings, just like Phanes, and it's entwined with a snake similar to the depiction of the cosmic egg. The helmet Soul is wearing appeared to be his own version of the lion head. So with all this information, it's safe to assume that Soul is trying to use the Necroserpent, or now Necromarcus, to hatch from the cosmic egg, which is most likely him being trapped in the core of the planet. Even though I don't exactly know why he's trapped there, the reason definitely involves Grandmother. Whatever she did, his dark photon processor is somewhere in the core of the planet. Soul brought back this different version of Tally after she fell into the hole. After Campion's encounter with resurrected Tally, he claims that she was different and evil. Later in season 1, Paul claims that Soul brought Mouse back to him after Mouse fell down the hole. So Mouse would be another resurrected thing Soul is working through. Resurrected Mouse brings Paul to this cave where he sees paintings of events that have happened and events yet to come. But the serpent on the wall is moving, indicating that these paintings were just in Paul's head. Similar to how Sue was shown a vision of how to cure Paul after he was poisoned. The reason I say this is because it appears that the creature scratched out the paintings in the cave where Mother's bones were buried. It appears that the creatures were trying to prevent humans from seeing the information on that wall. The paintings could have depicted how to bring grandmother back to life, as there was a specific process to do it, and was later discovered by accident. So who's to say the cave paintings Paul saw were actually there? They could have just been projecting over something that was scratched out. But then again, that's just conjecture. But like the tarot cards, the cave paintings depict the pentagonal prophecy. On this wall, we can see a serpent, mother and father departing from Earth and flying to 22B, and a painting that predicts what's going to happen to Sue. How she will absorb the seed, turn into a tree, and then feed the serpent so it can grow fins and tentacles and become the necroserpent. Soul is really good at manipulating information and having humans or androids see or hear certain things, keeping them in the dark, but hopeful enough to follow him. Like only letting Mother see one tarot card, causing her to travel to this location to give birth to the serpent. Oh yeah, the devolved human also tries shoving Mother down the hole. I feel like if it successfully pushed her over the edge, it would have just expedited the whole process of turning number 7 into the necroserpent, since we later see that the only way Soul could feed information to the serpent was using that 5-branch tree, as Soul's signal was basically useless from the electromagnetic field that was housing the tropical zone. In Christianity, the serpent can be viewed as this extension of Satan, the same way the necroserpent is an extension of Soul. In Genesis, Adam and Eve, supposedly the first humans, are told not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But then the devil, speaking through a serpent, convinces Eve to eat some of the forbidden fruit, which she ends up doing, and then she politely gives some to Adam. And then God comes in and he's like, dude, you ate from like the one thing in this garden that I told you not to eat from. It was pretty easy not to break the rules because there was like one of them. Anyway, long story short, God banishes them and sin is created. So the devil tricked Adam and Eve into eating from the tree of knowledge, and Soul tricked Sue and Marcus into creating the tree of knowledge, and tricked Paul into distributing the fruit. Remember when Otho mentioned the tarot cards belonged to the devil cults within the Mithraic? Maybe the devil cults were actually right, as they were worshipping Soul for who Soul actually was, and the rest of the Mithraic are deluded into thinking that Soul is good. If Soul was wearing that helmet as a reference to the mysterious lion-head sculpture, that further proves my point. The lion-headed figure is most commonly believed to be Arimaneus, the antithesis of Oromeses, the god of wisdom, making Arimaneus essentially evil, thus making Soul not good. So that was a week in my life. Hopefully you liked the video. Hopefully you found it insightful. I'm gonna go to sleep now. So, you know, subscribe, all that stuff, and thanks for watching.